Today we're going to talk about lesson 76, and it is simplifying complex fractions. Now, complex fractions looks really scary, and in fact, the example on this first page looks really scary, but they're really not as scary as they seem. They really are not. Now, a complex fraction is a fraction that contains one or more fractions in the numerator or denominator. If you will take a look at the examples that I have on this page, okay, you will notice that in the numerator of this example here, there's a fraction, okay, and there's also a fraction in the denominator. Same way over here, there's a fraction in the numerator, and there's a fraction in the denominator. Now, that's not the only way you're going to see them. Sometimes you'll see them with just a fraction in the numerator or just a fraction in the denominator. Our approach is exactly the same, no matter where that fraction is. As soon as it has a fraction in a numerator or denominator, then it is a complex fraction. Okay, one way to simplify a complex fraction is to make the fraction in the denominator 1. And the only way to make it 1 is to multiply by its reciprocal. Okay? So, what I have, and when I do that, I have to also multiply the numerator by the reciprocal. So if I multiply this by 5 over 1, and this by 5 over 1, this turns into 1. So it basically goes away. And I'm left with 2 times 5, which is 10, over 3, which is, of course, 3 1/3 as an answer. That's pretty easy. Now, let's take a look at this one. Okay. Now, we have 15 over 1. So it is not, 15 is not a fraction. But I'm going to rewrite it that way as 15 over 1 divided by 7 1/3. Okay, we need to turn 7 1/3 to an improper fraction. So remember how we do that? We take 7 times 3, which is 21, plus 1, which is 22 over 3. Now we have a really true complex fraction. What we have to do? Well, we'll do the same thing we did before. We're going to take this times 3 over 22. But what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So 3 over 22. This part of this fraction goes away, and we're left with 15 times 3 over 1 times 22, which is 22. And that ends up 15 times 3 is 45 over 22, which is 2 1/22. Not too bad. Now, on this slide, we're going to look at a few more examples, and we only have a couple of slides left, so it isn't too much longer. We have 2/7 divided by 1/5, 25 1/3 divided by 1/2, and 8 1/3 divided by 100. Now, the interesting thing about this one over here on the far right is that this is actually the beginnings of how you could turn a decimal into a fraction really pretty easily. So the first one we're going to look at is this one on the far left. It's 2/7 divided by 1/5. Remember, the goal is to get the denominator to be 1. So to do that, if we have 1/5, we just take it times its reciprocal, 5 over 1. But what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So it's times 5 over 1 as well. And these eliminate. And we end up with 2 times 5, which is 10, over 7 times 1, which is 7, or 1 3/7. Okay, this second example is 25 1/3 over 1/2. Now, if you notice, the 25 1/3 is not in improper fraction form. In fact, it's a mixed number. So probably the first thing we would have to do is turn it into an improper fraction for us to be able to work with it. So if you remember what we did when we're turning a mixed number into improper fraction, we have to take the whole number times the denominator, so 25 times 3, which is 75, plus the numerator, which makes it 76. So I'm going to rewrite it as 76 over 3 divided by 1/2. Okay? Now, we're actually going to do the same thing as we were doing before. We're going to change the denominator so that it is 1, and to do that we have to multiply by its reciprocal. So we have 1/2 times 2 over 1. We do the same thing above, 2 over 1. Now, we don't have anything we can eliminate, so it is literally going to be 76 times 2. So I'm going to do my math right here. 76 times 2, 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1, and that's 152 over 3. That's a pretty ugly fraction. So we're going to take 152 and we're going to divide it by 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times with a remainder. We got a 2. 3 does not go into 2, so it's going to be 50 and 20/3. No, 50 and 2/3. There we go, 50 and 2/3. So the answer would be 50 and 2/3. Now, for our last one, this one goes really pretty quick. It's 8 1/3 over 100. Now, 8 1/3 could be a percent that we're trying to turn into a fraction. So that works really pretty well. One of the things we probably want to do, though, with it is we also want to turn it into an improper fraction. So 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25, which is kind of nice. We end up with 25 over 3 over 100 over 1. Now, we want to do the same thing with our denominators that we've been doing all along. We want to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1 over 100. So, 1 over 100. Now, that turns out kind of nice because we are able to do some cross-reducing on this one. If we take 25 into itself, it goes once. If we take 25 into 100, it goes 4 times. And we're left with 1 times 1, which is 1, over 3 times 4, which is 12. That works out really, really nice. So that's those 3 examples. Turn the record button. This one, 28 1/4, is just like the last one on the previous page that we looked at. If we take 28 1/4%, and we want to turn that into a fraction, we can just simply divide it by 100. And I think you probably know this anyway. You've probably been doing it. We'll cross this out, and now we'll just act like it's a normal complex fraction. We'll put this over 1, and we'll take 28 times 4. 4 times 8 is 32. 2 times 4 is 8. End up with 112. So plus 1 is 113. So you end up with what? 113 over 4 divided by 100 over 1. Now you want to go ahead and multiply that denominator out so that we can get it so it's even 1. So we multiply it times 1 over 100. We do the same thing on the top. And we end up with 113 over 400. And that's a really kind of a ugly number, but I do believe that is as low as it will go. So that's how you change 28 1/4% into a fraction that you can use. On this last slide, I want to show you another way to approach complex fractions. And you'll be very familiar with this one, so it won't be hard to show you. And for some people, this is really the easier way to deal with complex fractions. This is 1/6 divided by 2/3. Literally, it says 1/6 divided by 2/3. So rewrite that. 1/6 divided by 2/3. We already know keep, switch, flip. So if we do that the way we know how to do it, it would be 1/6 times 3 over 2. Well, that's something familiar that we've done before. We eliminate the 3, that's a 1. We eliminate the 6, that becomes a 2. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, and we're done with a complex fraction. And this is, most people, this is what they like to do with complex fractions. They don't want to do the other method, but it's good to know how to do it the other way. So we'll rewrite this one as well. 15 over 1 divided by 3 over 2, which is the same with you think, keep, switch, flip. You're going to think 15 over 1 times 2 over 3. Again, you can eliminate commons. 3 becomes a 1. 15 becomes a 5. 5 times 2 is 10 over 1, and the answer is just 10. And that's all about Lesson 76 in complex fractions. I hope your homework goes well, and we'll talk to you later.